Hello guys and welcome back to another video in this IoT series where we're pushing along and building up quite a nice architecture, and we're trying to look at each part in that architecture and explain a little bit in detail. I'm going to further look at NodeRed, and we're going to look at the user interface that comes with NodeRed in terms of creating a dashboard. Okay, and this is the same whether you're looking at it locally, which we're currently looking at, or if you're doing this on the cloud. Okay, so what I've just done previously is, in a previous video, we looked at reading and writing data to the actual PLC hardware, and we were using an OPC UA protocol to do that. And you can see I have the hardware connected and that is still running. I have TIA portal here, and I'm still kind of monitoring some of these values and writing these values as I go through it. And really we're seeing, well, okay, we can read it here. Anytime we click this button, it will read a value. Okay, variable 1's at 0, and it's at 0 currently. And I could set that in a timer to read that anytime I want. And we can also write to it. So I could click this will write the value of 22 into the variable. We see that's happened, and we can actually see this has happened on the hardware itself, right? But now what I want to do is, well, that's not very user friendly. I have to go into this code. Could I create a dashboard that would allow me to do something similar like this and control my PLC? Now remember, this is still all happening at the moment locally, but the same procedure, once you get NodeRed installed onto a cloud account, which we'll do in later videos, this can still be done the exact same way. Okay, so we'll just look at it here locally, and then we can start to look at a cloud later down the line. Really what we're going to do, you're going to need this dashboard library installed, okay, and it gives us access to a number of things that we can do here. There can be other libraries in there that can get you further commands and stuff that you can do, but really some buttons, some sliders, some gauges, text boxes, things like that is really going to be useful to us, so we can play around with it. Now I'm going to show you a very simple dashboard. If you want to style it up a wee bit with different colors and fonts and things like that, you can delve a little bit more and play around with this software and look at the resources. Lots of resources on YouTube and things like that to see how you can make the dashboard look a bit fancier. But we're just going to look at functionality here currently. So look, what I'm going to do is, very firstly, we're going to see that with NodeRed, okay, remember we look at this through a dashboard and we say, well, localhost 1880 will bring us to this user interface, okay, the programming interface. But if you put a slash on it and you type in UI, you now have the user interface where the dashboard would sit, okay. Now at the moment I haven't added in any of these dashboard commands, so there's nothing sitting on this web page. Okay, and it's still locally, but there's nothing sitting there. So I'm going to start to try and add some stuff to it and play around with it a little bit. Okay, so, well, a couple of things. I might want to view some text. Okay, so let's maybe put on some text here. And what I'd like to do is maybe read out the value from that client and display it on some text. Okay. One thing we got to do, I have a couple of, I'm going to start from blank here, but really you can see here, this is the text, what's it going to display. I'm going to display variable 1, we'll just say variable 1 from the PLC, and it's going to display the payload. Okay, we can play around with some of the labels and stuff. I'm going to add it to a new group. Okay, so this is a new group. I'll continue, maybe I'll just call this one just to give it something different, Siemens PLC, and I'm going to add a new tab, and this one is going to be called PLC variable 1, let's just say. Now I'll explain what maybe these groups and tabs mean in a second, but this is just kind of organizing my dashboard a little bit for me. Now if I go into here, I haven't deployed it yet, so let's just deploy it. Okay, and you'll see I've got a group and my variable PLC of what's going to come in here. Now at the moment, if we import that's 22, we see the value of 22 coming in here. But what might be nice is, well, let's say if I change this timestamp to repeat every, let's go on an interval, every 1 second. Okay, let's pop that in now. That will change and update as we write data to it. Okay, so maybe what we might want to do is, let's say if we input a numeric value, okay, again, we'll put it in the same group, okay, and maybe if you want to see what a different tab can, what that kind of plays around with, we can, let's go a new tab, just to show you this, let's go, right, var1, you know, you can play around with better names than this, but just for the moment, I'm going to show you. Labels numeric, the value, we can type in a value between 0 and 10. Okay, so we could change this. We could type in a value between 0 and 500. Steps of 1, so whole numbers between 0 and 500. Obviously, you can change that. The payload will be the current value, and the topic we want to write to. Let me just put this in here and see. I might have to specify the topic there, but let me just play around with this again, so we can see that reading into 22 so often. Here's where we can select, so this is a new tab. I can select a numeric value to push in, but we're not actually writing in that just yet. So let me just double check that. Yeah, so I need to make sure to add in the topic of where I want to write this data. So if I take in that OPCUA item, there's my topic, okay, or the item that I want to write to, and I'm saying I'm going to pass this value into that and then put it into, write it to the server. So if I deploy that, we should see now that as I change this value, that value will update in the PLC, and I should see that in here in the actual hardware. So I've now got a bit of a graphical user interface that I can change the value, and every 1 second that will check the value and see what it gets put to. Okay, so we've a nice wee bit of a setup there. Now something again that might be a little bit more interesting is to actually control the output of a PLC. Okay, so I'm going to have to do something similar, but let's actually use, let's say, a switch here. Okay, and if you want to add in a new dashboard group, let's just show what happens here. Let's go new group for PLC. Let's add this, and we also might want to put a new tab. So this is all just around organization on PB start. It's all around organization of your dashboard. So if we deploy that, okay, how come that hasn't come in just yet? We start. Oh yeah. So see that now. See, we can see with the different tabs what that actually does. It puts it on a new tab. So there you can see the difference between your groups and your actual tabs. So you can put it all in the one dashboard, or you can have a couple of layers. Again, something for you guys to play around with. But if we go to switch, so when we select it, it will become true. When we deselect it, become false. And we want to write that to a particular topic area. So again, we're going to select our item. We're going to pop this in here, and we're still going to use the same client. We can connect multiple of those to it. Now, where do I want to write it to? Well, that's interesting because I want to control an output. So if I go into my code, I actually want to control an output. So I want to control this motor, but I can't write over the actual hardware. I need to use a memory bit. So I need to get the value for that that memory bit that I created. I need to get the OPC value for that so that I can write that correctly. So again, we did this in a previous video. We looked at UA Expert to do that. So I'm going to quickly pause the video and just double check that value. So now that I have my OPC UA opened, my UA Expert, I can inspect this start push button memory bit. And I can see that's namespace index 3, string, and then it's called OPC underscore start PB. So I need that data to know what I'm controlling. So I can come back in here and I can set this up in here, and I gotta write it out the exact same way I see there. Okay, can I actually copy that? No, so it's OPC all in OPC, and then it's underscore start PB, and then my commas. So just double check I have that right. I think so. So now I can write that value. It's not an int, it's the data type is Boolean. Again, you'll see that here, it's Boolean. So if I deploy that now, I will have a switch that will write to that particular topic and update that in my server. So we're not changing the variables, we're going to a push button start. So if I turn this on, I should expect to see an output turn on here. Look at that. Oh, got to plug in a battery. So we've seen that come on. Now what I'm going to do, and I can see that actually in my hardware as well, but I'm going to quickly go back and do another push button. Let's just paste that down. The OPC UA item is now going to be my reset. And I would double check that in my UA expert just to make sure that that is how it is. Okay, we think so. I can now make a new switch. I'll put it in that same group. Okay, sorry, I put it in the same tab, but I'll make a new group. So let's make a new group. This will be the reset PB. And it's going to be on that. Let's add that. Just got to make sure I put them in the right. Should be in there. Tab. No. I'll just update that and see. So this is a new item. I'm going to connect that in. Let me just double check what way I have that on my dashboard. Yeah, there's my other switch. Brilliant. Okay. And you can play around with some of those names just to make them a bit more identifiable. Apply that. You know, we go in here into, oh, still not updating. So I've changed its name there. Label reset. So it's all about playing around with some of these you know, different views and stuff that we have of it and how we can actually make this look a little bit nicer. But anyway, sorry, so I've hooked that up. Now when I reset it, I need to turn this off and reset this. I should see my output go off. Now because this is kind of like a latch and switch, I can't actually start it if that's off, because this will still not let us through. But if let's just turn them both off, my output's off, and then I can turn it on, my output will be on. I can see this on my real hardware, and if I turn that off and put that on, the output will go off. So I'm controlling my PLC from a dashboard, and as I say, you can play around with the different tabs and views and, you know, comment them on nicely, and you can actually change fonts and stuff if you look up further tutorials around this. But really we're just looking at functionality, and we're just writing that value to our OPC UA client, and we got to use UA Expert just to identify those exact tags, and this will work with the hardware. Okay, I can see it actually happening in my hardware. You would need the hardware connected for this to work, and we're getting an idea of what an actual dashboard looks like and how we can, you know, control things from it. So that's brilliant. You can do that with NodeRed. This is all done locally, and you can do the exact same on the cloud. To do some of these commands, you get the same sort of dashboard, but we do need to add in some further links of how we actually push that up to the cloud and then get it down from a cloud. But how you go about creating the dashboard using these commands and things like that is the exact same here as you would on a cloud installation of NodeRed. So hopefully that makes some sense. You can really play around with it and get some nice dashboards created.